Oh, you bet. It is time for Orange and Blue today with Cecil Lammy and Andrew Mason talking about Denver Broncos. Mace, you're on the case in Santa Clara. How's it going, buddy?
It's going all right. Made it here safely.
That's the most important part. Make it there safely.
Safe and sound and on the good old 7th floor of the hotel.
Right. And away we go because you're out there for joint practice. You're out there for the preseason game. And we're going to talk on today's show about what to expect in these joint practices. I'm expecting a lot of spirit on both sides, actually.
We got spirit. Yes, we do. We got spirit. How about you, right?
I'll be your Ed McMahon. That is correct, sir. And the Broncos fired up to be out there. And really, Mace, to me, at least on Tuesday, it just felt like the dog days of summer. Like, okay, let's get this team to another team. Let's get them to face somebody else. And I feel it'll be great for them to kind of get that extra energy out against an opponent that's not your same guys.
Yeah, and probably the 49ers feel much the same way. And of course, it'll be on their field. So you do wonder if there's going to be that little bit of extra edge defending the home turf. Sometimes you get a little bit of that when you host the joint practice. So maybe there'll be some of that. Broncos, it's been a minute since the Broncos went on the road for a joint practice. I believe it was 2021 in Minnesota, the last time they went on the road for one of these things. They had a couple of days there in Minnesota. So it's good. I think the other big thing is, of course, you actually get to see what you look like against somebody else. I think we've had the discussions about the offense and some of the roadblocks that they've had over the last few days. And now generally they've counterpunched pretty well. I mean, certainly you look back at the quasi scrimmage on Saturday and the defense certainly generated a lot of pressure in that practice. And that was when Zach Allen particularly wreaked havoc. But the offense was a Troy Franklin drop away from getting a touchdown in the move the ball period at the end of practice. But still, if you had to say which side of the ball on the first team is winning, you definitely tilt it more toward the D rather than the O. Well, now you get a chance to see what it's going to look like against another defense, not only on Thursday, but also on Saturday. And then I think you can actually maybe get a little bit more of your arms around where the offense really stands roughly 2 weeks into training camp and the preseason.
Yeah, and it is training camp, Mace, so I'm not looking for Bo Nix to fill the air with footballs or have these downfield strikes. Now, others are. Stay in your cocoon because you hear others be like, why aren't they throwing deep? It's training camp. He's getting used to his receivers. Hell, him and Cortland Sutton are working on some timing and some placement, and against the 49ers, it won't be Pat Surtain and Riley Moss out there. So take advantage. Maybe a couple of more deep shots.
Yeah, of course. I mean, they don't know your moves, right? I mean, so, and the other thing that's also going to come into this is you're going to face a team that, while they may have looked at you a bit, they haven't really studied you. So and this is another thing about the joint practices, they're focused on their own development too. So understand this, you're facing a team that isn't studying you the way an opponent in the regular season is going to study you, right? You face a team on a Sunday in September or October, and they've spent the previous 6 days going over you with a fine-tooth comb. That's not the case. So it's a little bit different than facing a team, obviously, when you get to the season. It's really just, okay, let's see how you look against somebody different that hasn't seen you every day and that hasn't been hitting you up for tips. Like it's, Pat Bryant, if you watch the interview over elsewhere here on the Denver Sports YouTube channel that I had with him a few days ago, Pat Bryant's talking about how he's, quizzing Pat Surtain about tips and how Surtain's kind of telling him, hey, there are certain tells sometimes that you give that you have to avoid giving, that cornerbacks can kind of see tendencies and so forth. So you don't have cornerbacks that are good, that know those things about you when you go into a joint practice, because those guys don't see you every day.
Yeah, they don't see you every day, but they're going to work hard. And one day, before I move on to the running backs real quick, on the 1 day thing, joint practice used to be a couple of days.
Yes.
Are you okay with 1 day? Does that just prevent like fights or the second day shenanigans we would see?
I mean, I suppose, although you look around joint practices around the league, some of them are still seeing fights on 1 day. So
Right.
I'm not sure that always has the intended effect per se. So I mean, maybe it brings them down, but we haven't really dove into the analytics of it. I don't know if we're ever going to have the analytics on that.
No, but you'll be our eyes out there. Certainly a lot of people talking about you with boots on the ground, Mase, here locally, because this is one of those things, like, it's so important. And for me, with the ground game, we know the Broncos defense, and in the middle, you mentioned Zach Allen. We can talk about John Franklin Myers. I think Savion Jones has had kind of an under the radar performance in certain days of camp, like what you see from this defensive line. But the ground game sometimes isn't as robust as maybe fans. Again, it's training camp. You and I don't lose our minds over this kind of stuff, but it would be nice to see, RJ Harvey, JK Dobbins get a little more success against the ground, against the 49ers rush defense.
I mean, sometimes what you're seeing from RJ Harvey is you're seeing the bursting, you're seeing him get there, but you're seeing someone on the defense cut him off quickly. I mean, there was one play, and I'll actually give an example for Jaleel McLaughlin. There's one play Jaleel got to the edge, and it was with the second team line. He gets to the edge, and Alex Palczewski, he's pulling out. He's doing well. He's got the escort for Jaleel. This is setting up to be a nice play, and Shadé Barron has just read this perfectly. And if it's full speed, full tackling, he's got him dead to rights. And it's a nice read by Shadé, instinctive reading as it develops to get out there, be in position to make the play. So are you going to see a reaction that quick, that effective when you get out there in the regular season? Or is it going to be somebody maybe who's just a tick slower, and Jaleel's going to pop that thing for 10 or 15 off the edge instead? That's the sort of thing that you're talking about with all of these running backs. And there are plays here and there in training camp where you see it's setting up well, but the D has done such a good job that it's cut off. So what does it look like against a unit that isn't necessarily going to rank in the top 5 as you hope this unit's going to be? Now you are going to go against some terrific defenses and you'll have to adapt, but what does it look like maybe against somebody that you ought to be able to have some more success against? And then what kind of confidence builds from Sundays and Mondays against units like that allows you to kind of get going and stack productive games, as opposed to stacking days where you kind of hit a wall more often than not.
Preseason is pretty vanilla, Mase, but do you feel, and I'll talk about Evan Ingram here specifically, do you feel we'll see a little bit more during the joint practice? Maybe not the full playbook, obviously, but do you think that Evan Ingram could do a little bit more in these joint practices than perhaps we would see in a preseason game when you just don't know how the game's going to unfold?
I mean, you think
it's vanilla in the practice?
I mean, the thing is, you set up downs and distances. So maybe if you want to set up like third downs, perhaps in some scenarios for him, or but I don't know if you're specifically setting things up for him. I think you're setting up downs and distances. And if it gets to him in the progression, if he's a high priority in the progression, then perhaps you're doing that. But I don't know if it's necessarily specifically him per se. I mean, don't you want to find out, about Troy Franklin and the others? I mean, I think there's a lot of things you want to do.
Yeah. And the thing that I love about joint practices, and I'm peanut butter and jealous, man, I should be there sleeping on that couch behind you, because you get to see the down. It's scripted to, like, this is what we want to see. Again, in a game, it just happens to be however you move the sticks, right?
Yeah.
And then that sets up certain situations. You might never get to that 3rd and 7 situation you wanted. In a joint practice, you can design that, and the coaches work together on those things.
This is why coaches really like these now, is because they can specifically say, okay, let's make sure we get these specific 3rd down types, for example. Like I say, like, okay, we want to work on 3rd down. So we're going to do a bunch of periods where we go 3rd and 4, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12. And that drives the day. I mean, we see in Broncos practices like, okay, today's a 3rd down day. Today's a red zone day. I mean, we could tomorrow see a day that's sort of maybe they want to do 3rd down in red zone. So maybe you've got, say, 14 periods, and maybe you've got a couple of 3rd down periods and you've got a red zone period. Maybe you've got a 3rd down / red zone period. You can these are the types of things you can do and set up if you want to do that. Maybe you want to work more on the run, and so it's a 1st and 10 period, and 1st and 10 is naturally going to be a more run heavy down. Again, these are the types of scenarios that you can truly set up if that's where your teams are. And so, Sean Payton will reference talking with Kyle Shanahan a few days before the practice, and they work together on kind of where their teams are and formulate a plan for these repetitions for when it's Broncos offense versus Niners defense and Niners offense versus Broncos defense, because it's sort of finding out, hey, our offense is here, needs to work on this. Kyle, where's your defense? Like, what do they need to work on? And so you're sort of basically saying, like, let's say, Broncos want to do more 3rd down, and maybe the Niners want to do a bit more red zone. Then maybe you kind of say, okay, we're going to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Make sure everybody is getting what they need to out of the practice. And then maybe if the Venn diagram crosses over on the two, if say Broncos offense and the Niners defense, if they both need to work on 3rd down, then maybe it just becomes a heavy 3rd down day on that field. Like, that's the sort of thing you end up coming together on if the conversations reveal that that's where the coaches want to put the point of emphasis.
Okay, I've got one more defensive question and thought for Andrew Mason to run by him. But first, we need to hear from our sponsor. Today's episode of Orange and Blue Today is presented by Ramos Law, the official injury law firm partner of the Denver Broncos. Ramos Law was founded by Dr. Joseph Ramos, an attorney and ER doctor, to provide exceptional care to those injured in accidents. With a unique understanding of both medicine and law, the Ramos Law team is built to fight for you every step of the way. Experience the Ramos Law difference. Contact them today at ramoslaw.com. Okay, Mase, don't know how much they're going to practice, so forgive me tomorrow if they don't practice a lot, but Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle. If we think about this team and the struggles to stuff the run, again, no live tackling, but it's a scrimmage, it's practice against another team. What do you need to see from the run defense? And then George Kittle, again, if the veterans out there, practice, whatever, like stopping tight ends has been a struggle for this team at times. You get a big challenge in McCaffrey and Kittle out there.
Certainly a big challenge, especially if you're still down personnel-wise inside linebacker, because they're working Alex Singleton back, but we're still seeing him just doing individual work. We'll see if he's ready for more by the time they get out there on Thursday. But if you want to test Lavelle Bailey, maybe okay, that's a good way to do it, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're happy with the progress of him against the run. Maybe you say, okay, let's set up a chance for him to cover Kittle a couple of times and see how that goes. Your safeties, Brandon Jones, Talanoa Hufanga. Now, Hufanga ought to know George Kittle pretty well from their time together in San Francisco, of course.
Oh, yeah.
So, do you work on them being involved with tight end packages as well? I mean, do you bring Jahdae Barron in? If you do maybe some dime packages and so forth, that's a good way to test Barron, I think, is also bring him in perhaps on Kittle coverage as well. I mean, this is another thing. Vance Joseph was talking on Tuesday about Shadei Barron, how he's learning from his mistakes and he's coming on, and it's all about getting him ready for week 1. The fact that he's learning and growing from his mistakes, it's a positive that he's able to take some beneficial things from miscues on the field. We see the growth from day to day. Certainly, it was a frustrating few days at the start from him. I know we talked about some of his one-on-one reps early, but those one-on-one reps are getting better and better as we see, and now we see the results. I talked about kind of the positive play he made against the run earlier in the show. So if you put him out there, if you set him up with a matchup against Kittle and it doesn't go the way you want to, that's okay, because he's going to learn from that and get better from that. I mean, and this is a thing, like it's a practice, it's a test, but it's not the final exam. The final exams start in September. This is something kind of along the way. Maybe actually, it's maybe not necessarily a test. Maybe this is like a quiz, is a better way of putting it. This is a quiz. You sort of learn where you are in terms of how you're learning the material. And if you don't quite have it down right, then you go back and study a little bit harder and maybe work to get it right the next time.
Professor Sean Payton will have you on point. There's no wins or losses from this joint practice, but we get a win, Mase, because we get you out there in Santa Clara. He's Andrew Mason. I'm Cecil Lammy. How do folks help us out on our YouTube channel?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell,
so that you never
miss
a vid. That's right. He's Andrew Mason. You follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammy saying OBT's BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned, and would you please stay